So welcome back everybody to BeamNG.drive and another review, and yeah, we're looking at the Autobello Piccolina at 130. Now this was produced between 1957 and 1963, has 44 horsepower and 81 pounds-feet of torque from its 1.3 litre 2-cylinder engine, I think it is, and it weighs 1620 pounds and has front disc brakes. So yeah, this isn't quite the base model because the base models have 1.1 litre engines and about 30-ish horsepower, so yeah, a little bit more powerful, but yeah, still hardly the most powerful vehicle that we've chosen on this review series so far. So yeah, basically we're just going to be rolling it over, crashing it as much as possible on the grid map first. Then we've got 3 obstacles to deal with later on: a rollover ramp, explosive barrels and a cinder block wall. And then we'll be doing 3 crash tests crash hall, and then we'll be going up against actual vehicles on the highway. So yeah, I'm not expecting much from this, to be honest, because yeah, it's lightweight, it's incredibly small, it's really rather old. I think it's the oldest vehicle that we've had on this series so far, and yeah, the fuel tank's in the front, the engine isn't particularly powerful, so yeah, I'm not really expecting much from it, to be honest, but I don't know, it could easily surprise us. You know, I have been surprised by a couple of the vehicles on this series so far, so let's hope that this does the same. But yeah, don't go expecting miracles with this. Ooh, slid out a little bit there. So yeah, we just go around the grid map and just damage the car as much as possible, really, until it stops, or it can go no further due to, a mechanical fault that doesn't let us, turn properly or anything like that. So yeah, with the fuel tank at the front, this is acceptable to having fuel leaks. Well, there goes the exhaust. Make us a bit louder though. Rolled over. Ourselves back. So yeah, what you can see in the middle of the car underneath is the fuel line. Goes from the front to the back. So yeah, any frontal impact might well give us a fuel leak, which will inevitably stop the car at some point. Lost the light, we've lost the tips of the exhaust. Roof is not in the right shape anymore, that's for sure. All kinds of twisted. At least it hasn't gone down, it's only gone up, which, more headroom ain't no bad thing. Roll again. Lost more parts coming off the vehicle. Oh, that was probably just something that was already on the ground. It's a bit more tough than I was expecting it to be, though the engine is overheating. Even though it is only air cooled, it does still get to a certain point before it can go no more. Push an air cooled engine too much, it's still going to go pop. Just means that there's nothing mechanically there to stop it, or at least nothing mechanically there to break it. Suspension looks like it's slightly lower now on the front. The wheels are popping through the fenders, which isn't good because yeah, this isn't the highest riding of vehicles, and I have in previous crash tests had the front go under the wheels and therefore not be able to steer. Well, that was hardly the lightest of crashes, and seems to have survived that. Yeah, the wheels are looking really rather susceptible at the moment, and the bodywork is falling apart. We are turning to the left now, which isn't good. Yeah, the bodywork is now hitting the floor. Very little control. Oh dear. Well, there goes the fuel tank. I did say it was at the front. even with still being able to move, we can't move very well. Yeah, we can't move at all. And now we're on fire. Well, that's great. Yeah. We've lost pretty much all control of this now. Not going to be able to go anywhere anyway in a minute, because we're going to run out of fuel. All the engines are just going to lock up because of the fire. But yeah, there we go. That's not particularly strong in a lot of ways, but it lasted a bit longer than I was expecting, to be honest. So right, let's see how fast we can go before we get up until the get to the obstacles that we're going to be dealing with. I just remembered I'm going to have to spawn these in on video, but whatever. I had to restart the game because it crashed on me. Yeah, we can get up to about 79 miles an hour as our top speed, but yeah, 0 to 60 is only 16.9 seconds, so not particularly quick, but, you know, it's all you really need for a small city car, to be honest. I doubt in most cities you'd even get up to 60 miles an hour, so that doesn't really matter. Right, let's spawn in our obstacles. Spawn the car back here first, so we don't have to drive. Right, so firstly we're going to be doing the rollover sled, which is, yeah, 3 times, and see how well it survives. Most vehicles have passed with flying colours with this. Some vehicles have taken a hell of a lot of damage as well. The 200BX in the previous episode, for instance, had its wheels all bend up and everything, and which wasn't good. It's obviously better than breaking completely, but yeah, he's still bent quite severely. So yeah, no idea how this is going to perform. We obviously saw that the roof was susceptible to being bent around, but it only went up, it didn't go down, so let's see what happens here. It's got quite a cylindrical shape to this, so I imagine it's going to roll quite a lot. There goes the first real damage to the car. Ooh, nearly rolled all the way over. I like it when a car does that. But yeah, that's not taking much damage, to be honest. I'm surprised the wheels are still pretty much straight. The front right one looks a bit acceptable, but not susceptible even, but or suspect even, should I say. But yeah, that's done that okay so far. Ooh, get lined up properly, that would be helpful. Yeah, it's definitely taken bodywork damage, and the roof has been pushed down a fair bit on one side. So let's see what happens when we go again. Oopsie daisy. Fire! So it's still got quite most of its body shape's still there, so it's probably going to roll completely, or as much probably as last time. I don't think it really took much more damage there, to be honest. I'm surprised. Yeah, some more of the bodywork got bent up, but it's not driving in a straight line any worse, really, so it's surprising, right? So let's see if it can survive this third go. Fire. The victory! Well, we finally lost the other wing mirror. We finally lost a headlight. But are we going to lose any more? It's not looking likely at the moment. I think because the car is so light that it's not really got much weight to press down on that roof, whereas obviously other cars weigh £2,000 more or more than this, and therefore have a lot of weight coming down on that roof, whereas this, yeah, less than £1,700 really isn't all that much force to go through that roof. And we've even rolled over. So yeah, I'm massively impressed by that. That has survived the rollover really nicely. Obviously, in real life, this wouldn't have seat belts or airbags or anything like that, which obviously would not help in its survival. But in all honesty, yeah, considering, you know, how exposed those wheels are, how obviously we exposed a lot of its weaknesses in going around the grid map, I'm surprised by how well that's managed it. So yeah, let's now get those hard barrels out and see how it does against those. So yeah, we won't go too far because this isn't the fastest of vehicles. So just load them in. So yeah, most vehicles have survived these. Not intact, obviously, because they do a lot of damage. But most vehicles have survived it. So I'm expecting this to hopefully do that, but then again, given how fragile the front has been with the fuel tank and everything, we might well be liable to have a rather explosive impact here. Not going to be the fastest impact though, because we're only a slow car, sub 50 horsepower and all that. But still able to get to 53, which is decent enough. Oh! The whole chassis is bent. The fuel tank has gone. The exhaust has been damaged. And yet, we're fine. Honestly, there is nothing wrong with this whatsoever. Apart from the fact we can't steer, and we have no doors attached, and we've got a wheel that's about to fall off, and yeah, that's a lot more damage than I expected, but then again I should have realised that the lack of bodywork might well have pushed the explosive force towards the rest of the car, unlike other vehicles where it's mainly been the front that's been impacted. So yeah, and now it falls over as well. So yeah, that is a lot of damage. That's probably the most damage outside I think the BX in the previous episode a vehicle has taken. Then again, I can't remember all of them, so there we go. So yeah, let's finally get to the do a cinder block wall. See how well it does with one of these. Every other car has passed this, so I'm hoping that this will. Probably going to get to about the same speed as we did with the barrels. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Passed that with flying colours. So, yeah, didn't pass the explosive barrels or the grid map, you know, run all that well, but the rollover and the cinder block wall have been passed with flying colours. So let's get to the crash hall and see how this does with 30, 40 and hopefully 60 mile/h impacts. So here we are at the crash hall. We're going to do a small overlap crash test at 30, 40 and 60, and I said before hopefully 60 because obviously this isn't the fastest of vehicle, so I've backed it right up to the wall just to give it the most chance possible to get up to the speeds that we want it to. So let's see what it can do at 30. All vehicles that we've taken out on this series so far have passed this fine, so expecting this to do so as well, despite the fact that we've obviously seen some weaknesses in this car. But yeah, I imagine with the fuel tank up there and the spare wheel and everything, it's going to take enough of an impact really to be fine. So yeah, there we go. Small overlap crash test. Yep, that's fine. No deformation to the roof, doors, and no intrusion really into the passenger weld either. So yeah, that's fine. Obviously the car's not going to drive straight anymore. The wheel has knocked out to the left, but that is yeah, perfectly well in terms of that. So let's see what happens at 40. Now we always see a dramatic change between 30 and 40 mile/h on these impacts, with most cars at least. So let's see what happens here. To the wall we go. Yeah, that's worse. Then again, we might not have hit it completely on the wall, but either way, it's worse, but it's not dramatically worse. The steering wheel is still pretty much where it was, although slightly to the right. And even though the door has popped open, it's not crushed in such a manner where no one could get out. In fact, because it's a suicide door, you could still open that and perfectly well. So yeah, the door there with its design is of benefit to anyone that's crashed it, but yeah, it's not anywhere near as safe as some vehicles that have crashed at 40. Right, so let's see if we can actually get to 60. We will be able to get past 40, but how much? So we'll have to see. Wasn't even quite 60, but even so, that is devastating. I think it was about 58. But even so, owie, yeah, the steering wheel is right where the driver would be. The fuel tank has exploded. So if you were knocked unconscious, you'd likely die from suffocation or fire. So yeah, not one that I'd say is survivable there. Unlike the previous two, which most likely would have been, this, yeah, definitely is not. So yeah, that is horrific. So yeah, now let's get onto the highway and see what this does against two similarly sized vehicles, and then one that really isn't. So here we are at the highway. Obviously there's not many vehicles that are as lightweight as this, but I've gotten as close as possible. So we've gone with the Covert, which is about 400 pounds heavier than this, but they're about the same kind of size. So yeah, hopefully they will be a good match. And as usual, 60 miles an hour. I'll have to switch between the two to keep them in line with one another. Covert apparently has a worse driving line than the Autobello there. Let's see what happens. Obviously the Covert is far newer. Ow. Yeah. Covert there got away with that flying colours, whereas the Autobello, yeah, the steering wheel and the driver's seat are where they are in the same place, which yeah, is obviously not helpful. And then there's also the massive inferno, the fact the chassis is bent right down. The roof is fine. I think the roof on this is probably the strongest part of the car, to be honest. So yeah, that is not a survivable crash whatsoever. So that is a bit of a shame. I was hoping that the Covert would be a good match for this, but obviously not. So let's replace the two of them, and let's find another similarly sized vehicle, or at least hope find a similarly sized vehicle. I think we'll go for the Fate 1. I know it's a mod. I don't like using mods against, you know, normal kinds of cars that are on this game, but it is lighter than the Covert by about 70 pounds, so that might prove useful in terms of the Autobello's chances. Pretty much the same, to be honest. The only reason the steering wheel isn't further into the seat is because we had about a 90% off crash there. We're about 10% off the being wholly at a frontal impact. So yeah, Fate 1 there, fine. Autobello again, not fine. So yeah, these high impact, high speed crashes really aren't proving all that, you know, helpful to the Autobello there. So let's see. Well, it still works, but not by much. Let's see what happens when a vehicle that really isn't suitable is going to go up against this. So he's already seen that two lightweight cars that are only about 400 pounds heavier than this have dealt a heavy blow to this. So let's see what happens when an Ibishu Hopper goes up against it. Weighs about twice as much as the Autobello. We'll go with the sport version, yeah, which weighs more than twice as much. And let's see what happens. Obviously this isn't the largest of off-roaders, it's not the heaviest of off-roaders, and yet I don't think this is going to do very well, considering how it's managed the others. Ow. Sorry it's a bit dark, it just happens, so happens the impact is under a bridge, but as you can see now, this is a devastating impact. Although, to be honest, outside of the roof crumpling a bit more, not actually all that much worse than the other two, to be honest. So yeah, either way, off-roader or lightweight hatchback, this Autobello really isn't a vehicle that is all that safe in head-on impact. So yeah, there we go. I think the Autobello is probably the least safe car that we've had on this series so far by a long way, to be honest, because the only three things that it dealt with well were the rollover crash test, the cinder block wall crash test, and the 30 mph small overlap crash test. Pretty much failed the 40 and 60 mph ones, failed the grid map auto test, and also failed all three of the head-on impacts here. So yeah, least safe car that we've had so far, but I guess that's no surprise because it's also the lightest and the smallest one that we've tested as well. So yeah, there we go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.